I was speaking at a conference a long, long time ago. Man, I'm surprised it was in 2018. So this is like 5 or 6 years ago, and not to date myself, but yeah, this was many years ago. But so I was speaking on a stage, and a guy named Joe Fairless runs the event, and it was actually I was backstage, not yet speaking. I had to follow Joe. I was the person who went after Joe, and the person who runs the whole thing. And he's a great speaker. He's very, very knowledgeable. And also, he's very funny because he was a comedian for a while. He went and took comedian classes in New York and actually got on stages for that. So he's very personable. He's very honest. He's very open. He's very educated, very smart, very wise, and easy. He easily breaks things down in a way that others can also understand it. And so he had a lot of people there. And here I was backstage, and this lady at the end of his presentation, it goes to Q&A. And one of the first questions, like the third question, is this lady on the front row, all the way stage right. So on the left side, and I could see her because I was on stage left, on the right side. And so I'm looking, and I can only see like 20 of the people that are sitting down out of there must have been 600 or 650. And so I can only see a couple of them. And so it was nice. I saw her raising her hand for a while, and he finally picked on her. That sounds like you're in grade school and he's pulling her ponytails or calling her names. He picked her. He selected her, and he said, what's your question? And she said, Joe, if you had to do all of this, your podcast all over again, because he was suggesting others actually, I forgot to mention this. He was telling his audience that they should start podcasts. So the woman, she goes, Joe, if you had to start it all over again, would you still do a daily podcast? And Joe didn't even really have to think. He just said, no, I wouldn't do a daily podcast. And I thought it was interesting how he phrased it, because you would expect him to say some smaller number. Like, I wouldn't do it daily. I would go to 1 a week, or I wouldn't do it daily. I would go to 3 a week. Nobody knew what he was going to say next. And then he said it, and it surprised the entire audience. He said, I would do a twice daily podcast. And then now he goes through the reasons why he would do it twice daily, from 7 days a week, 7 episodes per week, to 14 episodes per week. It sounded crazy, almost like blasphemy. Like, why would you put yourself through that hell, Joe? So he goes on to say that the conversations that he's had with other real estate entrepreneurs in his field, the conversations that he's had have brought people closer to him, closer to his business. He's been able to do joint venture deals with people. He's been able to find more deals because of it. He's been able to grow his network much, much faster because he's having that many conversations with other people. And he says that that you're more likely to get your episodes shared with other people. And simply, you also have just more shareable content, and you have more guests that would be willing to maybe share the episode that they were on. So with these conversations, with constantly being in front of people, which is my next point, he's always in front of people. Think of when you publish an episode, think of it as finding a way to finally get back to the first page of Google. But then tomorrow you're on the second page of Google. Then the next day you're on the third page. And then the next day you're on the fourth page. People are not going to find you when you're on the second and third and also fourth, fifth, and sixth and seventh page. They're not going to find you. If you're going every other week, they're not going to find you for 2 weeks. They're going to fill their time with something or someone else. I have a friend, and she's a great person, an awesome, awesome person. And I'm not condoning or condemning her right now. I am just saying that her husband was working a lot of hours, and she went out on the side. She went and hooked up with some other man a couple of times, and then she felt bad about it, and she told her husband, and then he changed his work schedule so they could start getting back together, and she wouldn't have the need, or she wouldn't feel the need to go outside the marriage. Think about this with you and your listener having an intimate relationship. You've got to put out. I know that's crass, and I'm not trying to offend you. You've got to put out. You have to give and take. You have to be there for them in many ways. Maybe when you've been married for 30, 40, 50 years, it's different. But when you're young, in your 20s, in your 30s, and probably even in your 40s, that part of the intimacy is really, really important. And not just the sexual part, but now we're also talking to the emotional part of intimacy and sharing and having a dialogue with somebody who cares and gets you. And you don't want your listener to go outside of your podcast marriage. And so you got to put out a little bit more. You got to give them that content. You got to be the squeaky wheel that is going to get the grease. You've got to constantly be in front of them, adding value to them, or they're going to go and find somebody who does.